I want to have you turn in your minds with me this morning to an Old Testament book, a tiny little book. You can go back home and read it in its entirety in just a few minutes. 14 short chapters, autobiographically written by a prophet called Hosea, living in the late 700s before Christ. Hosea and his wife Gomer had 3 children, but tragedy struck that home. For some unexplainable reason, Gomer decided to thwart that love, and seduced by the allurement of the night lights, she walked out of her home and started to sell herself in harlotry. Many an evening, this prophet, who used to preach to the people through the day, would be seen in the streets of his beloved city looking for Gomer. At times, he'd be seen standing outside the brothel, just waiting for a moment to talk to her, to love her, and to win her back. In this little parsonage, God displays his love for us in such extraordinary terms. And if you'll give me your attention, I want to take you through 4 very profoundly moving truths. And I promise you, if we understand these truths, it'll be the most revolutionary thing in your life, because from this truth, all other truths of love must be defined. Isn't it ironic? 2,000 years after the cross of Jesus Christ, when a movie is made to capture that event, the world is still divided and doesn't seem to understand what it is all about. But go back to this parsonage and follow these ideas as they unfolded. The first thing you see is, as this man goes looking for his wife, who's broken her bond of commitment to him, somebody probably stands in the street and says to him, Hosea, we love you, we respect you, we admire you, you're a man of integrity, but we do have a question for you. How can a holy man of God like you be in love with such an adulterous, harlotrous person like that? And Hosea says, I'm really glad you asked, because I have an answer for you. Now I'm beginning to wonder how a holy God like that can love such an adulterous nation like us. Well, you see, when he raises that question in his own mind, he takes a microscopic look at the heart of God. Go back across the centuries, when God was looking for a nation through whom he was going to reveal himself. Why did he not go to Greece? Greece, the land of philosophers, where philosophical definitions were made and written. Socrates, Plato, Aristotle. Contemporary philosophers tell you most of Western philosophy is merely footnotes to Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. But he didn't go to Greece. Why didn't he go to Rome? That glorious city that wasn't built in a day, the majesty of the Caesars. But he didn't choose Rome. Nor did he go to Babylon, which was renowned in building its magnificent palaces of splendor, renowned because of its wonders encased in their cities. Greece, Rome, Babylon. No, he did not. He went to a tiny little nation of people, laughed at by Greece, abused by Rome, enslaved by Babylon, and he says to them, you are the apple of my eye. If you read it in the original language, it doesn't say the apple of my eye. It says, you are the little maiden of my eye. Do you know what that metaphor means, you are the little maiden of my eye? It is so deeply touching. It is like this. It is like you telling the girl you love, come close, come closer, come very close and look into my eyeballs. And when you see that miniature reflection of yourself, you will know that you alone are that little maiden in my eye. He takes that love to a most undeserving group of people, and he says to them, you are that little maiden in my eye. You are the apple of my eye. What love. Why did he bring you here this morning? Why has he raised you up in a land of so much, such abundance? What a grand surrounding in which we find ourselves. Why me? Why have you loved me with this kind of an everlasting love? That's why the songwriter says, what language shall I borrow to thank you, dearest friend, for this thy dying sorrow, thy pity without end? Oh, make me thine forever, and should I fainting be, Lord, let me never, never outlive my love for thee. The love of God, it is undeserving. But you go one step further. The love of God is desperately needed. Some years ago, I got a telephone call from an Olympic athlete. I shall leave him unnamed. He said, I'm calling you from 2,000 miles away. I want to come to Atlanta. I need to talk to somebody. He said, will you be willing to sit down and talk to me? I said, it'll be an honor, sir, an honor to talk to you. I knew his name. He flew in all that distance, took me out for lunch, a muscle-bound athlete. And what I'm telling you is an absolutely true story as he told it to me. He said, Ravi, from the time I was 12, I wanted to be a world medalist. I started training for this event. I never walked up the stairs. I ran, zigzagged up the stairs. Everything I did was to win the gold medal in the Olympics someday. I bought myself a camera, followed the world champion, noticed where I was way behind, at what turn and what angle and so on. I spliced up that film till I was cutting down the distance, cutting down the time. I was still several seconds away from the world record, but in the trials I did well, and I was selected. And I arrived here for the World Olympics, a dream in my life. He said, I won the heat, I won the second heat, won the quarterfinals, won the semifinals. Here I was ready for the gun to be sounded for the finals. I never imagined this moment would come. As I was standing there, the gun about to be sounded, now he was tipped to be the gold medalist because of his times in the heats and the semis and so on. He said, as the gun was about to be sounded, something happened. Like a wave out of nowhere just flooded over my mind, and I lost my start for a fraction of a moment. And the wave that swarmed over my mind was this question: I wonder if my daddy's watching. He said, I haven't had a good relationship with my father for years. He told me I'd come to nothing, that I was wasting my time, that I'd never get anywhere. And now, seconds before a gold medal, the thought, I wonder if my dad is watching. He lost a fraction of a second, still came in within the medal standings. And this man, twice my size, is sitting across a luncheon table with his face in his hands, asking for some help that can put his relationship back with his earthly father. Can you imagine what this world would be like if we were here in a nimbus, in a vacuum, no heavenly Father to commune with? And yet God says to you and to me that he has fashioned us to be conformed to the image of his Son. His design for you and me is that of a loving heavenly Father. Madam, you need that love. Sir, you need that love. It is the only love in the world that gives you essential worth. And I want you to hear me now. Naturalism cannot do that for you. Naturalism operates from a vacuum in the transcendent. But God says he has fashioned you and designed you for a purpose as an individual. The very word means you are indivisible. You are uniquely put together. You need his love. I need his love. God's love, undeserving. God's love, desperately needed. Ever made a commitment to God? Ever said something to him in your own prayer life? Time and time again, I think back of those moments when I came to crossroads and made some commitments to him. And then as you start to stagger and you begin to struggle a bit, it is so good to go back to those moments, remember what it is you said to him when he was moving in your heart so deeply. And when God calls you and me to be committed to him, he's calling for our wills. He says not only does he love us, but he says, remember what it is you promised me when you come. Bring your will, bring your moral commitment, for that's what it is.